The sad truth, Raheem Sterling's Chelsea nightmare continues. When Raheem Sterling signed for Chelsea in 2022 from Manchester City for £47.5 million, the deal was supposed to mark the beginning of a new chapter in his already decorated career. A four-time Premier League winner, England's experienced winger, and still only in his late 20s, Sterling was expected to become the leader of Chelsea's attack and a mentor for the young stars joining the project. But 3 years later, the dream has completely collapsed. Today, Sterling is not only out of Enzo Maresca's plans, he has been thrown into the so-called bomb squad, training away from the first team, eating separately from the squad, and treated as a player who no longer has a future at Stamford Bridge. This is the shocking reality of one of England's most high-profile players. The transfer that never happened. Sterling entered the summer window knowing his Chelsea chapter was almost over. He was one of the highest earners at the club, with wages of £325,000 per week, yet he had failed to convince multiple managers that he could fit into the system. Chelsea were open to selling, and Sterling himself was prepared to move on. But as the days passed and deadline day approached, the reality became clearer: there was no agreement. Fulham came closest, exploring a move that would have kept Sterling in West London. But at the last minute, they turned to other targets. Crystal Palace and West Ham United held discussions internally, but neither advanced with an offer. Speculation about a possible move abroad to Turkey or Saudi Arabia also surfaced, but Sterling's camp immediately dismissed those reports. Unlike last year, when he accepted a late loan to Arsenal in the final hours of the market, Sterling was adamant this time he would not be rushed into another last-minute compromise. As a result, no deal was reached. Sterling remains at Chelsea, but not as part of the first team. Training in exile. Being in the bomb squad is the worst possible fate for a professional footballer. Sterling has been forced to train away from his teammates, using different facilities, and even eating meals separately. Enzo Maresca has made it clear that Sterling is not part of his tactical project. The Italian manager wants high-energy wingers who can press, create, and link with players like Alejandro Garnacho, Cole Palmer, and Estevao Willian. Sterling, at 30, does not fit the long-term vision. For a player who once terrorized Premier League defenders with his pace and intelligence, this exile represents a brutal fall from grace. Ben Jacobs confirms Sterling's decision. Transfer journalist Ben Jacobs confirmed what many suspected: Sterling is prepared to bide his time. Raheem Sterling is willing to wait for his next option after failing to secure a move away from Chelsea this summer, Jacobs explained. The key detail is that Sterling has no interest in moving to Saudi Arabia or Turkey, despite those windows still being open. Reports of talks with Besiktas were declared false. Sterling wants to remain in Europe's top leagues, competing at a level that will keep him in contention for the England national team. That means his future will only be resolved in January, when the winter transfer window reopens. Until then, he remains in limbo. Contract termination rumours. There was speculation Chelsea might consider terminating Sterling's contract to allow him to leave as a free agent immediately. But Jacobs poured cold water on that possibility. Termination has not been discussed. It would be extremely costly for Chelsea, given Sterling's 2 remaining years on his £325,000 per week contract. The Blues would prefer to wait until January, hoping for a sale or loan deal where another club covers a portion of his wages. For now, Chelsea are stuck with an unwanted player. And Sterling is stuck in a career limbo. The England factor. Despite his exile, Sterling has not given up hope of continuing his England career. With 82 caps and 20 international goals, he still believes he can play a role for Gareth Southgate's side. However, inactivity could destroy his chances. If Sterling remains out of competitive action for months, his England call-ups will dry up, especially with younger wingers like Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, Garnacho, now at Chelsea, and Jack Grealish competing for places. This is perhaps the biggest reason Sterling is refusing offers from lower-profile leagues. He wants to remain in the spotlight, in a league that Southgate values. A career in decline? It is important to remember how big Sterling once was. A teenage sensation at Liverpool, he earned a blockbuster move to Manchester City in 2015. he became one of Pep Guardiola's most trusted wingers, winning 4 Premier League titles and scoring over 130 goals for the club. His pace, direct running, and ability to find space in the box made him one of the most dangerous attackers in Europe. But since leaving City, his decline has been dramatic. At Chelsea, he has managed only 19 goals in 81 appearances. His loan spell at Arsenal last season was even worse, just 1 goal in 28 appearances. The player who once looked unstoppable has lost his spark, his confidence, and now his place in the elite. What happens next? Sterling's Chelsea nightmare is set to drag on until January at least. Unless something extraordinary happens, he will continue training away from the main squad, waiting for a club that believes in him again. Will a Premier League side take a gamble on him in January? Will a European club offer him a fresh start? Or will Chelsea eventually be forced to cut their losses? For now, one of England's most recognisable stars remains in exile, watching from the shadows as Chelsea move forward without him. This is the brutal reality of football at the highest level. One day, you are a hero at the E. Why Romeo Lavia was left out of Chelsea's Champions League squad, full decision explained. When Chelsea officially submitted their Champions League squad list this week, there was immediate shock among the supporters. Romeo Lavia's name was missing. For many fans, it sparked confusion and frustration. After all, Chelsea invested heavily in the young Belgian midfielder, and despite his injury struggles, there was huge anticipation to see him finally shine on Europe's biggest stage. But the truth is different from the panic. Lavia is not excluded, he is protected. The UEFA rule that saved Lavia. The explanation lies in UEFA's squad registration system. Each club must submit their list of 25 players for the Champions League, including senior and foreign players. However, UEFA also provides a B list, designed for young players who meet specific criteria. To qualify for the B list, a player must be born after January 1, 2004, have been at the club for 2 uninterrupted years, or 3 years in total since turning 15. Lavia fits perfectly into this category. Born in January 2004, he now qualifies for Chelsea's B list. This means he can still play in the Champions League without taking up a valuable slot on the A list. So while his name does not appear in the main squad, he remains fully eligible to feature in the tournament. Chelsea's Champions League squad and the road ahead. Chelsea return to the Champions League determined to prove they belong